So while we've run out of gas and we're waiting to do the rest of the arch, we're going to look at the rear window and just behind the rear window, which we know is a bad place. We've already seen from underneath it's pretty rotten, and what you're seeing there is just a complete cover up with filler. So we're going to start taking the window out and then working our way around to see what's real and what's been faked with plastic padding. These were obviously riveted same as the other side, which I believe is correct. We've got holes here, but to be honest the actual lip itself on the other side we had to replace. But it looks like we might be able to cut out small sections here and one here and replace that and that alone. And now we're working on removing the chrome trim on the top, and as you can see we've seen what's gone on here. This is 3 or 4 mil worth of filler which has got rust and rot underneath. So what we'll probably do, same on the other side, is weld up this line as we did on the other side, because this is just a place to catch dirt and rust and sort of dirt and water and then turn into rust, and then clean off this back area here. Probably got to take a great big chunk out of this to get it repaired, but we'll clean up a bit more and then come back and let you have a quick look. So it looks as though we've had a repair here once before. This one round here, they've not quite got the shape right, should have been further down. There's also some brass put in there, and we've also got some solder put here as well, along with the filler. So we're going to try and get a little bit more of this solder off, because actually underneath there's pure metal. So maybe they attempted to do a fix and it didn't work out and it ran down the wing or something, I'm not sure. So we're going to try and get most of that off, and then we've got to start cutting at this and repairing this, maybe cutting that brass section out and maybe the end of the wing as well. So there's quite a bit of work to do on this, but we'll come back when we've done a little bit more. So after removing all the solder, we found that this looks like a manufacturing repair, because there's absolutely no rust there whatsoever. It's quite heavily dented and there's nothing underneath to say anything's been done. So what we might do is make sure that every bit of solder's off and drop a weld on top of this, just to fill it up with steel as opposed to solder. As you can see, we've also started rubbing the line out that goes on the top of the wing to find out what can be repaired and what needs to be cut away. And like the other side, we probably won't be putting this piece back in. I know you can buy it, put it back in, but I think we're going to weld on the top once it's done. So we've decided to cut this much out, and now I'll be looking to clean up and make a panel to repair that, and it looks like this needs doing as well, so we've got to come further in. So we've got to cut a bit more, I think. So we want to fit the arch today, but before we do that we need to repair this hole here and this hole here, because they're going to be a lot easier to paint underneath with the outer arch not actually being there. So we're going to file these out, I think, or we're going to try file them out, see how big they get. If they get too big, then we're going to have to plate them. If they're not that big, then we'll just weld over them. So these patches have now been filled with weld, and we've also welded all the way down this seam, which probably needs a little bit more tidying up. And then when that's got some filler in it, then obviously that won't be a water catch anymore. We haven't done any further back here because we're going to look at putting the arch in now, and we can still get to the underneath of this to paint it. And a lot of this needs cutting out. So we're working on this here at the moment, and we're using a Dremel to carefully cut around all the way around here, across, and then we can use the actual proper grinder to get across there. And we've cut across here. We're leaving this part here, so we're going to replace everything else that's there. And then we need to go on the inside and do the inside as well, but we're going to replace this part first so the car's still got some strength while we carry on. So unfortunately we're having to cut further up here, and we may have to go to the inside because this is solid up to this point, but this is actually quite rotten, so we could do with removing that, which actually means removing something from the other side, which is the other panel that we actually need to fit in. And we've also taken this right up here now, behind here. So hopefully we can start. Well, we might have to cut the, like I say, the inside part out as well at the same time. Hopefully it will be strong enough to hold up the hatchback and things won't bend. I'm sure it will be fine. And then we might have to build the inside. Might even have to build the inside part first. But we'll cut it out and come back and see where we go from there. So we've made this shape of metal to go in this part here. We're going to put this in first. So it gives it a little bit more strength, so that when we cut the other side, it will be okay. And then we're going to fix the front bit there afterwards, after we've done the other side. So this is the first bit to go in, followed by the other side, followed by this part, followed by the front part. So we're going to put a few tack welds down to start with, because it's not quite fitting. It's not quite the shape that it needs to be. It's pretty close. As you'll see when I put a few tack welds down, we'll come back and I'll show you after the tack welds have gone in, and hopefully we can get a good fit. So it's pretty much fitting. I don't think we can get it any better than this, so we're going to weld it all up now that all the plug welds are holding it in place. So I've started rubbing this area down. It seems to be coming up okay. We also filled up the holes that were on this part down here as well. We just got this top to go, but the welding actually went quite well and has gone reasonably flat. There's not a lot of tidying up to do, although we've got to try and get this looking as best as we can. So we've now put in this section here, and it's all been welded up on the inside, which you probably can't see, and also on the outside down this edge here. And once the trim goes on, hopefully all that will be covered. We've also rubbed down this area here a little bit more, so it's looking more the shape that it should do and less weld. So similar to the other side, we've made this panel. The only difference is on this time we've actually produced the curve on the panel before we fitted it. On the other side we actually did the curving when it was on the car, but this looks slightly easier to do when it's off the car. So we've done that. We've scrubbed the area around here. We've got a few holes that we're going to try and weld, fill weld with these. So we're just going to stick this on and see how we get on. So that's now been welded back in, and we've tied up a little bit, and we'll do a little bit more with the grinder just to make it a little bit neater. And we'll probably go around and do the other side as well, because we left that quite bumpy. So that's in place now, and all we need to do is put in the lip that's missing now, as you can see, where the window rubber would go on. So this is the rear corner of the window at the back of the rear window, and we're going to just weld up a bit of this before we put in the final lip, which is going to go in there. We've had to cut a bit further up because it was a bit rusty, but we're going to weld these two pieces together as best as we can, and then we're going to make the almost like U section that goes back in this place. So we've made this lip, and we're just going to put a few tack welds down because it's not fitting exactly in the right place, and then as soon as they're down, then we can fully weld it. So that's now the lip fully welded in, and we've got a bit more clearing up to do, but that's pretty much it for this part of the car. So working from the inside, we found out that this part actually hadn't been done. So although we've done a few repairs on here, as you can see here, some holes that were on here that we've welded up quite some time ago now. We've now worked all our way around. The bottom of this thing was done quite some time ago, so we haven't taken that back to bare metal, but everything else in this area around here has gone back to bare metal. We've managed to get the two screws that were stuck that hold the window in. We've got those out, and so we're just going to put some paint on this, so now it's ready and then we can move on. So I've been working on the passenger side rear arch, and also the bit that goes up to the roof as well, just to meet up parts that we've already done before, all back to bare metal, and now we're going to get some paint on it. Right, that's now fully acid etched primered, and we're moving on to the next part. So we've just spent pretty much half a day on working on this area here, and we've just sprayed it with acid etch spray. It's been filled and it's going to need a whole lot more work when it comes to the actual finished paint work. So today we're doing a few repairs, or not necessarily repairs, but some corrections of welding and stuff like that. So we're looking at this area here, whereupon the top of this wing was welded to stop rain ingress, water ingress. We've got a couple of high points that we've just knocked down with a hammer and now filled them. We're struggling a little bit with that, try and get it right, because when that's shiny that is going to look pretty obvious if it's wrong. And we're also bit of practice really, because this probably won't be seen as when the stripe goes back on, the chrome stripe actually won't be seen, but it's good practice for doing other parts of the car. So we're doing that, and also this is where the rear valance was put back on, so we're just doing that line as well. Plenty to do to keep us busy.